Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Bible lesson for the Servant's House Ministry on this day, August 7th, 2022. My name is Mr. Vicki Williams, and I will be your teacher today. And we're continuing in our quest for Unit 3, Faithful to Heal. And our quarter, Servant and Healer. This is our last unit. So we'll be moving on to something interestingly different in the fall. Today's lesson will be coming from Matthew chapter 8, verses 23 through 34, and it is entitled, Jesus Heals Two Demoniacs. Jesus Heals Two Demoniacs. Now, we'll explain demoniac in a second. But before we begin, let's bow our heads for a moment of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for being God, for being Creator, all-seeing, all-knowing, all-doing. Thank you for your continued blessing of even me and all those who call upon your name. Father, I ask that you would open hearts and minds to receive your word today, be it through lesson or through preaching. Touch hearts and minds. Let someone know that you are real and come to you and ask you for your Son to be Lord and Savior of their life. Father, I ask that the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in your sight today. It is in Jesus' name that I pray. Amen. 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 So again, Jesus heals two demoniacs. Matthew chapter 8, verses 23 through 34. Last week, I had the pleasure of teaching about Jesus healing the centurion's servant. And one of the main things that we saw in this lesson was they talked a lot about authority. How Jesus had authority. Well, at least the centurion mentioned the fact that how much authority he had. He understood authority. That all he had to do was say, go do this or come do that, and it was done. And he believed that Jesus had the same authority as the Son of God. And that all he needed to do was just say that his servant was healed. So wherever Jesus was at the time, and the servant would be healed. So here, as we move on to our new lesson this week, Jesus has been real busy. If you read Matthew, the beginning parts of Matthew, you'll see that prior to this lesson, Jesus had given the Sermon on the Mount, and he had also taken the time to heal several people. So, as we begin our lesson with verse 23, we find that he's tired. He's been dealing with people. Essentially had his back to the Sea of Galilee, teaching the multitude and healing people. And at this point, I'm sure he's tired, and it was time to get some rest. So again, if we begin with Matthew chapter 8, verse 23, we see that it says, and I'm reading out of the King James Version, and when he was entered into a ship, indeed Jesus, his disciples followed him. Now, we're not talking necessarily a cruise ship here, but it is a vessel that would carry a lot of people from, basically point A to point B. Unlike the boats, now we hear the term ship and boat. Boat was meant more than likely the fishing boats that would go out, the fishing vessels that would go. And again, he entered that ship, and that ship was going to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And it goes on and says, verse 24, and behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with the waves, but he was asleep. Now, we always hear, in rock scripture, they talk about storms coming upon the Sea of Galilee. Well, I'm grateful for this lesson because now I found out, well, why is it that they have so many storms coming up there? Well, the Sea of Galilee is 7 miles below sea level. So with that in mind, the wind currents that come through are interesting. You get, again, if you consider the Sea of Galilee, if you have colder winds coming in from the north, but on the western, on the eastern side, eastern and southern side, you have your land mass. But on the western, well, it's not west to you if you're watching me, but as I'm pointing to the west for me, you have the Mediterranean Sea. And that brings warm currents. So as we know, well, everybody who's listening to me and who will listen to me, when cold air and hot air mix, storms are created. And so that's why when you're dealing with the Sea of Galilee, they talk about storms coming up. And because you never know how the wind currents are going to go, we never really know when a storm is going to come along or how big a storm is going to come. And of course, at the time, there were no meteorologists, so they couldn't predict that. Well, you don't want to be on the Sea of Galilee at around noon today because we plan a massive storm looks like it's going to come through. So here we have one of those perfect storm, if you will, the cold and hot air coming together. Now there's this big storm. And it said that the ship was covered with the waves. So it wasn't just a regular storm. They had some storms, but this one brought on big waves. And if you look at some of the other gospels, you'll know that it wasn't just Jesus on a boat. There were other, it said small ships. They said small boats versus ships that were along with them. So there's a lot of vessels on this water being tossed and turned. But again, and I'm one of those people who I have motion sickness. I can't do both doing all of this. So when I imagine this, I can just imagine myself being dizzy and sick and everything else. But waves crashing, again, some of the gospels say that the water was filling the boat as well. It appears to be a very dangerous, tumultuous situation, but it says here, he was asleep. Jesus was sleeping through all of it. I'm like, wow, I know me. I would try to put myself to sleep from getting sick, so I wouldn't get sick. But he's sleeping. He's resting very, very well. Verse 25, and his disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we perish. And Jesus, why are you sleeping? Don't you realize we're all going to die on this ship? They were scared. And so I'd be scared too. I don't swim. So me being on a boat that's doing all of this and water's coming in the boat, it's time to be scared. Yes, we perish. I'm going to die. But I like what Jesus said. Verse 26. And he, Jesus, saith unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Why are you afraid? Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the sea, and there was a great calm. Why don't you have any faith? What are you afraid of? Yeah, when I look at the circumstances, sometimes faith goes out the window. Preservation hits first. And I wonder if it was, necessary, not necessarily little faith, but just, again, for us, we know what faith is. We would trust, rely, and believe. But sometimes circumstances, we get involved with the circumstances that surround us, and we forget that there's a God that's there, who's there to look after us and protect us. We deal with the now versus the bigger picture with God. So, but these, I laugh when I think of this. It's like I can see all this turmoil. And here it is, Jesus is calmly gets up. I don't know if he even leaves whatever cabin he was in. He may have stepped out on the deck. And scripture in some of the gospels it says he just stands there and it doesn't say he yelled. All he did, it says he just said, peace, be still. Peace, be still. And there was calm. I mean, all of this, a man just walked through, peace, be still. And then just everything immediately calmed down. I'm wondering, it's like, okay, did the clouds go away? Or did the sea get small? I don't know. Scripture doesn't give us that big of a description, but in my mind, when he said that, it's like I envision the clouds moving out of the way, the sun comes out, and everything is calm. And that's all he did. Wow. And I say, wow, just like the disciples said in the next verse 27. But the men marveled, saying, what manner of man is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? What kind of man is this? Now, it makes you wonder again, remembering that Jesus had healed some people. He's done a lot prior to this point. I mean, should you at this point start thinking, well, there's more to him than this? But I look at this, it's like, well, it's like God is trying to introduce the disciples step by step. Like first, they think that he can heal, but now he commands he commands the water. He commands other natural things. And in my mind, I thought, well, maybe there is something to him being the Son of God at this point. That they're gradually being introduced to the power of Jesus Christ. And just like us, God doesn't throw it all on us all at once. It's in gradual steps. I don't know about you, but for me, I realized that after I accepted Jesus Christ in my life, I began to look back on some of the things in my life, and I really I was able to say, you know what? That could only be God that did that. God did this. God did that. So it's just the little things, and I look at that, okay, God's showing them the little things, and eventually they'll get the aha moment. It took me years to get my aha moment, and then it took them a little while too, but remembering the fact that God didn't put us immediately into awe knowledge. And if you look back, if you carefully look back, you'll notice that God was with you in your life throughout all these little steps. We just, in some cases, we didn't know him, we didn't acknowledge him. Or we were aware of him. We know him, we knew of him, but we didn't know him. And I can definitely say that for myself. So now they're wondering, well, who is it? He controls nature. Okay, so he can heal people. And now he controls nature. Interesting. We move on, and it says in verse 28, and when he was come to the other side, into the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fear, so that no man might pass by that way. So the country of the Gergesenes, of course, is on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And basically what it is, it's an area of the Gentiles. And generally speaking, Jews really don't spend too much time on that side. It's almost like going on the other side of the grass. In this case, it's the other side of the sea. But when they got there, it said they were met by two possessed with devils. Now, Scripture says possessed with devils. Actually, it's not devils, it's really demons. Because there's really only one devil. And the others that surround him are demons. Well, I hate to use the term minions because it's the term nowadays, but there are others, the others that surround. But these two, it says, were possessed. And they were coming out of the tombs. Of course, they weren't living among regular people. And they were angry. They were fierce. And they kept people from going that way. So apparently, I can imagine in that particular city or town, when you're trying to tell people how to go here or there, don't go by this area, because there's a couple of people there that you don't want to deal with. Just go around. But Jesus went there, knowing, again, being all knowing, he knew what was going on, and no one else did. So there were two. Now, some of the other gospels will tell us that there was only one that came out from among them. Yeah. Now, that does not mean that somebody was confused. We must always remember that, well, when I tell a story, let me use it this way. When I tell a story, I tell you a story, and you go to, we got 6, 8 people here right now, and you go tell that same story. That story may be a little different. Yeah. It's not that it's not the correct story, but it's how you receive the story. And with the gospel, it's not that one said 2, oh no, that's wrong. It wasn't 2, it was actually 1. It was more the audience that they were writing to. Who were they trying to appeal to? Some had 2, some had 1, some had 1. That doesn't mean they don't align with one another. But it said there were 2. So anyway, what that matters is that there was someone who was possessed that came out as Jesus. Some would go on to say that there were 2 there, but only one was the one that was the predominant one speaking, and the other may have sat back. I don't know. It doesn't say here, but it says 2. There were 2 present. I don't know who was talking about. Verse 29 goes on to say, and behold, they cried out, saying, what have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? Now, here we have, I had to think about this a little bit. It made me, comparatively, why would we have this original story about the disciples, and then we go on to demons that actually call out the Son of God, call out Jesus. It's almost like, okay, here we are, we have those who have been with him for so long, or at least they've seen some things, and they don't know him. But here we have these 2 that just came upon him, and they know exactly who he is, and actually know their own truth. Not only it's like, well, you know, what do you want with us? What do you want with us, Jesus? You know, we haven't done anything to you. I mean, is it that, what, are you coming to bother us before our time? Mm-hmm. If you read scripture, you understand that before their time, they know that they're already defeated. They're going to be placed in the pit forever. It's just the point that, okay, Jesus, well, why are you here? We don't want anything to do with you. Are you here to bother us? And, you know, what? They don't understand why he's here. And behold, and verse 30 says, and there was a good way off from them a herd of many swine feeding. Now, this in itself lets us know exactly where they are, because the Jews does not deal with swine or pork or anything. That's considered, pigs are considered unclean, so they would not have them anywhere in their area. So here we are, we have a herd. Apparently, this particular town, they, I guess, bred and sold, you know, swine, pork products, etc., no. But there were some that were far off. And goes on, so the devil besought him, saying, if thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. Well, Jesus, are you going to torment us? Well, if you're going to get rid of us, just give us to them. Just put us in the swine. Put us in them. And it's just interesting how they know. And I've heard this often, and it speaks to this, that the devil and the demons know who Jesus Christ is. They know him. They know him. So, and they should know him. If you, again, and I challenge you to look this up, to find that demons are actually fallen angels. And so as in their original angelic state, of course, they were in heaven and they knew Jesus. They knew Jesus and they helped worship Jesus, so they would know him. But now, as fallen angels or as demons, they haven't lost that knowledge. So they ask, you know, if you're going to get rid of us, send us into the pigs over there. Send us into this one. And he said unto them, go. Verse 32, and when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine, and behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea, and perished in the water. Let me back up to verse 31 again. Again, Matthew had a different audience. So there, if you read the other accounts in the other two gospels, you will see that they mentioned that Jesus had a conversation with one of the demoniacs and asked, well, what is your name? And he replied, Legion, for we are many. So basically, it's not just that there's two men with two demons. Apparently, there are many demons in those individuals. And without going into demonology in any detail, demons do not like to be in the air, in the atmosphere. They prefer to have a coast. And just because you have essentially one demon doesn't mean that that's it. There can be when they say someone's being demon possessed, they can be possessed by many. And in this case, Legion, that's thousands. He says, my name is Legion, for we are many. It's not just one. But so again, you have the swine that's way out there, the large herd. And Jesus sends it, says, go. Again, he doesn't go through any particular ritual or any yelling or anything, he just says go. And the demons left out of the individual and entered into the herd. Now, if you go back to examining the way those who were possessed were acting instead of seeing fear. So apparently that same fighting or whatever the case may be, or tormenting, was the same thing that happened with the pigs. Because it said the whole herd ran violently down the steep place and drowned in the sea. It's not that they ran or that they just sat there, they just immediately took off and drowned. Verse 33, and they that kept them fled, and went their ways into the city, and told everything, and what was befallen to the possessed of the devils. I think I'd be afraid too. If I saw something like that, all of a sudden, my herd just immediately just runs off and drowns. But they ran away and they told what they saw. And behold, the whole city came out to meet Jesus. And when they saw him, they besought him that he would depart out of their coast. So he told the people, and the people came out. And, they saw who Jesus was and said, no, please leave. They were afraid. They didn't know if whatever happened with those pigs would happen to them, or if not, Jesus may actually go ahead and do something to the rest of the herds. I don't know if it was part of the economy of the area just to raise one. You don't know. But they wanted him out. If we look at this section, we see another aspect. First, we saw the authority to heal. Then we saw the authority over nature. And in this section, we see that Jesus' authority over even the spirit realm. So he covers a lot of areas. He covers a lot of areas. And I was trying to figure out why this particular scripture was in with our lesson of, faithful to heal. Well, of course, the healing being that they remove the devils or the demons from the individuals, but why here? I mean, what does this have to do with faith? Glad you asked. What it does, it shows us who we need to have our faith in. Unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how we look at it, we oftentimes put our faith in things that do not have any control, that are not strong enough to handle anything and everything. We can put our faith in people. Now, I'll honestly say that's like a 50-50 strategy. I mean, not everybody's going to be unfaithful or untrustworthy, but some will and some won't. But here we see if we put our faith in Jesus, look at what he's done already. And this is just in 2 lessons. And if you read scripture, you find out exactly all the things that Jesus has authority over. I would rather put my faith in him than in anything or anyone else, because I know he can handle it. I know he controls all. So why not? Why not accept Jesus Christ? Why not let him put my faith and trust in him? Because I know he'll do it. I don't know how long it will take, because of course that's in his time and God's time. But still, why not put your faith in him? In some cases, you put your faith in everything else, and a lot of it hasn't worked. Well, why not try it? You got nothing else to lose. Try it. Try it. You'll be surprised at what he can and will do for you. As he has shown himself to the disciples, and as he has also helped to remove demons from those two or one to the individuals mentioned in our scripture today. Fine. You'll be surprised what he can and will do. Are there any questions or comments this morning on Jesus heals 2 demoniacs? What causes a person to have demons to possess their life? I do not know the answer to that question. I don't know if someone else who may have more insight than me present. I don't know. And there are people possessed by demons. Or you get called miracle illness, you get called, I think back in the day, my parents would call it schizophrenia, and it was two-faced with a 2 personality. And these things will occur it appears as so. I say that because you mentioned, good example, schizophrenia. Someone who may have what they call multiple personalities, which is considered a mental disorder, a mental illness. And brought on by various different things. I believe yes. Now, as to how this happened, I mean, well, I'll say this. I know that my mother suffered from a certain schizophrenia. And I know why. There were various abuses in her lifetime. And in reading about it, because I was curious to find out what happened, a lot of times, in this case, people will develop, if you will, another personality to protect the original individual. Like, if you're being bullied, I'll just say an example, and you're not a fighter, but somehow you end up, I don't know how it works, but you develop a stronger personality that will fight for you, that will take over and fight for you, and then turn into your original person. But again, I'm no doctor, so don't take this as law. But again, and as we read scripture, we see that there are various things that they speak about that now we have different names for, and can actually point to, well, it's this, and it comes from this. So, again, using my family instance, I can understand how that happened. But for their case, who knows? Or any other cases, who knows? So that's just my understanding. And I encourage you to look it up, anyone who's interested in finding out about that. And there is a study of what they call demonology as well, that you may want to look up if you want to find out further about things like that. Yes, ma'am. So in today's society, we see those types of people
kill, and we go there. Where is the faith that we call demons or substance kill?
That will require people to know Jesus and to move about and act on it. So it goes back to knowing those of us who know him, not know of him, and who will be able to introduce him to those around us and actually help them and guide them in the way that they need to go. And that's, I'm simplifying this. I'm greatly simplifying this. I'm sure there's more to it than that. But yes, there's a way to do it. But how many of us are willing to enter into it and to do it? That would be the question. We'll do that.
I have a comment on that. Yeah, maybe since I've been going through that. What you're speaking of is a way that we feel the protection of the real person. It is, they have no outside friends. So they rely on what we call imaginary friends. So that demon and then that good person is an imaginary friend, which leads to disagreement because they have no one on the outside to relate to. Because we overlook those that have those problems that come to us with a problem, and being that we are norm, I say, we look at them as crazy. But they actually do have a problem, and they're reaching out to us in a way with us not knowing that they have this quote unquote imaginary friend. So they rely on say, Satan, because Satan sees that they're vulnerable, and Satan takes over, and that's what causes this schizophrenia in them, because they don't have, I don't have Sister Mary to come and talk to and say, hey, Sister Mary, I got this problem. I'm just an example. I've been raped, I've been abused, emotionally abused. I've been physically abused. There's a lot of spousal abuse. There's a lot of not just spousal, but significant other abuse that needs these people to, will say, talk to their imaginary friend and go into that state where it causes what we quote unquote schizophrenia. So when someone does reach out to you about a specific problem, you cannot look upon them as being crazy. Because I know I have looked at some people, oh, they do crazy, they don't know stuff. No, it's some people, it is a real problem. That's why they turn to alcohol, to the drugs, to the beating, and all of that. So us as Christians, in order for us to have them get the faith, we have to talk to them about it. Because we can't just say, why don't they have the faith? They don't know any better. There's no one there to instruct them or to guide them. We can give them a Bible. It's like giving a child a book to read, but if they don't know where to start, what are they going to do? So we always have to help them start in order to be where they need to be.
Anyone else?
It's possible because in the scriptures the demons have they learned to come to torment me already. If you see, they already knew that they knew the king. They knew what was coming. But they were asking why now? I didn't let me have my fun for the season. Do demons require permission from God? Maybe just that. It's like when they were asking about going to the community.
My answer to that is yes. Yes. Because God controls everything. And so there has to be a certain amount of willingness, I guess. But now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that everyone is going to be being possessed. There are certain things in God's will that we don't understand. Why is that individual possessed, if you will? Is that possession going to turn other people to Christ, or that individual to Christ? You don't know the full time. But yes, it seems strange for you to say that God would say yes. God has to give permission, but yes, he does. He has to, in order for his will to progress. Anyone else?
Back on Sonny's question. No, because she said, I may be saying, and there may be people that do not understand that God controls all everything. Then someone not being a Christian or not believing in God, why does God allow the demon to take control?
Again, the only good answer I have is that it's in his will and in his plan. And unfortunately, I can't. I wish I could look at an individual and say, I know why you're going through this.
Yeah, a lot of people say, well, why does God let this happen? That's a big question. A lot of people that answer stuff. Well, God is God. Why does he let me suffer? Why does he let me do this? A lot of people don't understand.
Universal. Let's make sure that we understand that mankind in himself is in this universal state. This is disobedience and sin. It is a universal reckoning with what's going on. For the demonic are those who are controlled or possessed by something that they can't seem to counterbalance. Again, those areas of those things in life, we have to understand that possession, or if we want to call it that, comes about through the different gates, the eye, the ear, the mouth, or the heart. The enemy finds the weak spot and enters through that particular gate. Jesus says, how can one possess a strong man's house unless he first overcomes him? The enemy, being the strong man, finds a way in and then takes over and then now has possession. It is what I just want to try it to see how it is. Everything starts with something. Then all of a sudden, you need that next hit, and that next hit, and that next hit, and then possession. Or I'm looking at the computer, I just want to see what it's all about. Now you need to see it over and over and over again to get that next high, that next deal, that next whatever. And we have yielded to the strong man, not recognizing that we have not yielded to, in obedience, the will of God. Why? Why would God allow that to happen? Well, you keep saying, I just want. And then God says, okay. And he steps back. Why? Well, perhaps it is so that he can draw you and others closer to him through the ordeal that you're going through, so that he can let people see that the chains can be broken if we just believe. Even with the demonic that's here. If you read a little bit further, you'll see in chapter 12, Matthew, where they bring the demonic to Jesus and he heals them, and all the people are amazed. Now, those same people weren't amazed when he was feeding them with the fishes and the loaves. They were just eating and they were hungry. But when he does this for somebody, they get amazed. Why is that? We're always amazed when Jesus does something for somebody else, but when he's doing something for us, we just take it for granted. It is perhaps that God, through his providential grace and mercy, is trying to reach the masses through the one, while he is also helping the one get a better understanding of who he is. For the disciples themselves, when they were on the boat, had no clue of who it was that they were with. They still saw Jesus as just a great teacher, some good man, someone who could change water into wine, someone who could possibly do it. But when he controlled all the elements, They even had to say amongst themselves, what manner of man, somebody better hear me this morning, is this? See, what they had to come to a realization, he is no man. He is God and man, all in one, and spirit. So where he can simply speak a word and something takes place. And Jesus, God himself, does the same thing in the demonic and the rest of it. He simply speaks to our situation. And he is allowing different vessels to be used differently because different people need different things to help draw them closer to God.
Thank you.
And if I may, we have to be careful with our tempting, without overindulging, with our eating. I'm putting it in that term because you feed the soul, you feed the scripture. You feed your mind with the different things you put in. And as Pastor was saying, be it with the eyes, with the ears, with the mouth, we feed this vessel that we call our body.
Mm-hmm.
Just like your house is a temple, or your house or the building that you worship in is a temple.
Mm-hmm.
You sow into that temple by taking care of it, dusting, cleaning. And it is fed by the spirit that is brought in and taken out of it in the home. A home that is not happy has, if you will, a aura or a feeling among it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes people can say, I walked in here and oh my God, I felt something was really going on. Whatever it may be. Just the same with ourselves, and I say this because I always hear, especially politicians, when people say, oh, video games can't make people want to shoot this, and oh, well, if you're constantly feeling about that, it becomes you. If you constantly beating myself, I'm constantly feeding myself around, why am I talking about it and put on 10 pounds? Exactly. So we have to not only recognize, but we have to acknowledge when we step away from God as well. For those who do believe in Him, we put ourselves in some of these situations because we walk from under His veil and under His covenant, and we say, "Oh, there's no more. Oh, no more. Traffic doesn't come 3, come 4." I watch some people like, you really ain't got ice cream for 1 day? Well, it was one more spoon, and it never got back into the freezer.
Right.
But so I think we just have to be very careful. And the reason I was asking is if God had to give permission to demons, because as we were all saying and as we were questioning, there's little kids that suffer from these type of things. I mean, very young little kids that suffer from these things. And I say that to say, parents, you have the right. We talk to God on your child behalf.
Amen.
Your child may not be aware of who God is in the form that we know. We are the intercessors. So never give up on people who are struggling. Never, as Sister Rose was saying, just kind of brush them off as crazy. I always try to say you have to be careful of the medicine that people take. Because it's often reminding another state, another addiction, something else that could feed into your system. And if we don't get ourselves back centralized and come back to God, it is very difficult, if ever, to defeat that.
So to just wrap up as we get ready to move forward here, to address, I want to say thank you to Sister Bella, because there are people who have chemical imbalances, who no fault of their own. Mm-hmm. That is a given thing. Some may say, well, God, why would God allow this to happen? Who sinned, him or his parents, that this took place? If you know the story. Mm-hmm. Because it's crippled. And they asked, Jesus, who sinned, him or his parents? And This was done so that the power of God may just be displayed so that you guys can see God at work and know that God is here. Sometimes those things are different. And here is a mechanism that helps it all. Even with the chip, even with the demonic thing. Amen.
Any other comments, anything online? Thank you all for your time and attention today. Interesting lesson. Again, just remember it's important who you put this together. Faith is best when you put it in. Next week, again, continuing with Faithful to Heal, our lesson is A Lame Man is Healed. And it's coming from Acts, the book of Acts, chapter 3, verses 1 to 16. Again, Acts chapter 3, verses 1 to 16. I hope you'll join us next week. Also, I ask that you would join us again at about 11:30 when we have our broadcast. If nothing else, maybe y'all stand. Let us recite together. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my redeemer. We are the Service House Ministry, where we are serving God by serving people. John 13:4. Thank you.